So my name is Professor Njoki Maina. I'm in the Department of Biochemistry at the University of Nairobi, and I'm a cancer researcher, or what we call cancer genomics.
From where you sit, have you been able to categorize like the prostate cancer, maybe within that year, how many we had?
The year 2022, about 3,600 men. And then unfortunately now the mortality is like 2,700 of them. We lose that number. That's a big number, because if you were to look at breast cancer, women are more than men, so we do have more of numbers, of course. And in prostate cancer, we're not seeing the mortality rate is actually increasing, which is very sad. Yeah.
Meaning men are not turning out for early screening. What is your conclusion?
Actually, from all the screenings that have been done, a paper was put out a while back, and apparently only 2% of men turn up for screening. Also from the same paper, 61% actually are aware. So the awareness is there, but the failure to go for screening is actually a very big issue, because prostate cancer, as any other cancer, if it's discovered earlier, then it can be monitored depending on even how the patient is. It's actually more of a patient oncologist work, but at least someone is on point in the knowledge that this person needs monitoring and following up. And it doesn't necessarily have to go, the long-winded many years of chemotherapy and everything. Everything in cancer, if it's caught early, it can be dealt with, and more often than not, these people actually proceed on into remission. Yeah.
I don't know whether to ask you about the cancer researches, prostate cancer researches you guys are being done maybe in the country or worldwide, or whether to ask, apart from the genetically caused, maybe you can inherit the cancer disease, what are the causes of the prostate cancer in men?
Okay, so I would just go back a little bit. When you talk about genetics and inherited, actually that there's a little bit of an error how people view it. Basically, cancer is a genetic disease, but it doesn't necessarily mean you inherited it, so it's not familial. So only about 7% of cancers, all of them, prostate cancer being part of, are actually inherited, so that you have a familial cancer. 93% is actually from our lifestyles, how we eat, the sedentary lifestyles, the lack of screening even because of how we live, and also the environment. We've had very many discussions, and they're still ongoing, about how our environment, in terms of the foods we eat, the herbicides and the pesticides that we use, like what is their impact. So unfortunately, that we cannot say anything, but we do know that those chemicals actually play a very big role in being carcinogenic. And I want to throw it, that would have to now go to the side of the government in terms of the policy makers to actually, take numbers, take stock of those kinds of data that they're having. There's some data out there anyways, all I'm saying, yeah.
Any research maybe you're engaging in, maybe with the partners on prostate cancer, or just general cancer?
No. Actually, specifically, I'm a prostate cancer researcher and esophageal cancer. Actually, and if you see, these are two cancers that are really sort of ravaging the Kenyans and the Kenyan man for that matter. And for me, actually, I've wanted to push this because of the awareness thing. And I think if we were to share numbers and to share with men so that they understand how important, especially for prostate, that they go out for checks and to be, just told that they are okay. But as a researcher, I'm actually a basic cancer researcher, or a basic science researcher, so I'm a molecular biologist. And what we're doing at the moment is, with the knowledge that our genome as Africans is not very well understood, is to actually go back to the basics of what is in our genome as Africans and what can it advise us in terms of the diseases that people encounter. So for my work, it will be the men in Kenya specifically, like what is their genome telling us about the issues of cancer, specifically prostate cancer. Because if you realize, black men are actually disproportionately affected by prostate cancer. And the reason behind that is still out there. Nobody can really put a finger on it. But those are questions that we ask and we're working on. Personally, I'm working on what we call biomarkers. Biomarkers are either genes or immunological outputs in the system that can guide us towards early detection of prostate cancer. So that is the work. We're in that formative phase. What we've done with our collaborators from Manchester University, I have my PhD student out there, and we've actually come up, he's a bioinformatician, so we're not just doing wet lab, we're even using the data science and bioinformatics. So we're actually going to put out a publication on signatures or markers for esophageal cancer in our population. And actually, after that successful output, the next thing is to put the prostate cancer, the cervical cancers, all these, the 5 cancers that are really bothering the African. So at least we started with esophageal cancer with our collaborators. And so the samples are African samples, Kenyan samples, and we do the work, the preparations of the DNA material, and we put them on. We're doing something called spatial transcriptomics. So we're studying genomes in single cells. So different cells within one tumor can actually give us a very good story of what is happening. And from that big story, we're able to pull out information that will say, with this set of genes or this set of appearances that you're seeing, you can be able to then work with men so that we are able to get cancers at early stage 1, stage 2, or even before the cancer, the pre-cancer stages, which is what I think Africa needs and Kenya needs, because we don't have the resources even to deal with the chemo and everything. So, yeah. So that's the work we're doing, looking for structure. They're called signatures, mutagraphs.
At least we can start from there. Maybe that can help us understand how they.
But the one thing I would say, because we're here, like I was trained outside with the guys I'm collaborating with. They trained me when I was there, and not just me. There's many of us. In fact, many the cancer researchers. And so we do have the knowledge and the capacity to think through our problems, but we just lack the infrastructure. Yeah, so I think someone will say, oh, you're at the University of Nairobi. Yeah, that's true. But in terms of the research area or capacity, it's just brick and mortar, and we don't have the infrastructure. Yeah, but still in collaborative research is good, but it would be good if we are able to also up our game a little bit so that at the table of research we actually stand as Africans, and actually fighting for our cause and our end, But there are people who are good and ready. Men actually, African, let me be specific, for prostate cancer. So men, and not even prostate, just cancer in general, and men in Africa. So our men actually are of the opinion that, I'll come. Yes, you will help me find. Then what do you want me to do? There's that, that sort of like giving up, like, so then what, But then what becomes a big problem, because what they end up doing is they end up, going through this horrible disease and leaving their families young. And so what they were fearing, that if I now know, then it will cost me, I don't know, then, but then you will cost your family even more, because you will not be there to take care of your children, with your wife, of your family, of your nation, and we need them. Yeah, and so there's that fear. First off, I will take you back a little bit. None of the 2 tests are new, and they've both actually been there. The PSA is a little bit newer for us, but what happens with the digital, the rectal digital examination? When the person or the man goes for a PSA, and the PSA looks worrying, and then they also have other symptoms like pelvic pain, there's some passing urine, blood in urine. So when all those things are put together with this PSA reading, then it's incumbent of the oncologist to palpate the prostate. So it's not really left out. It is still there, because by him palpating it, he can actually feel physically what is, what changes. He can know that there are lumps or whatever he will feel. It can be circumvented. And for population, it's actually practically not doable. It is doable, but it's not affordable, is MRI. MRIs are very expensive. So someone would then opt to go for an MRI. But then you're going for an MRI for something that is not, because with prostate cancer, when you have a PSA that is not looking as it should, after being compared to your baseline, basically the men are advised to work very closely with their urologist, who will actually keep testing. So it's a monitoring situation. So it's not an issue of the PSA gave me a strange reading, so oh my goodness, I'm off to chemo. No. So there'll be two scenarios. So there are ones who their PSA will be normal and they're okay. But what I would say to them is that then do it every year in October. It's very cheap and very affordable, and even there are places where they do it for free. So every October, someone can just present themselves, so that, especially if you're 40 and above, with the knowledge that black men have a higher chance of getting prostate cancer than Caucasians. So with that knowledge, so you present yourself every year. And then for the ones whose PSA looks a little bit doubtful or has issues, then it will be important to take it to the urologist, so that they can now discuss many factors, because the PSA being high is not necessarily meaning that, oh my goodness, you have prostate cancer. There are other issues. Could be maybe the prostate is inflamed, like with prostatitis, or as you grow older also the prostate behaves differently. So there are many things. And then the one thing that men don't know, because of the coitus process or sexual intercourse, if the PSA is read within like 24 hours of the ejaculation, the PSA levels will be high. And so you find that in places, they're advised to come maybe 48 hours, especially if there's a reason, like with the pains, or the back pains, there's so many, those are the little symptoms. They're not little, anyway, they're symptoms that work together with the PSA to send them to the oncologist. So they then at that point, they can be advised that please, for 48 hours, just stay aside, so that when we're taking the PSA, it sort of can be compared to the baseline, because the ejaculation causes that, and then inflammations, injuries on the prostate and stuff like that. So just an increase in PSA doesn't necessarily mean something very bad is happening, but at least you're on the radar. You'll be called again for another check. So the next step for people who find their PSA a little bit off the line is to then go to a urologist, and then just walk, and they will take their history, their medical history, and then from there they can be able to advise them on what to do. Yeah.
So exactly.
Well, we as basic scientists, what we're doing is we will present that these are the results we have, and so it's up to whatever the society to take it up as a way to you have a set of results you've been given, and so that if you check A, B, C, D, it will advise in terms of disease or diagnose it, disease progression. You have everything on a platter. So that's what the basic scientist does. We ask the questions, we give the results, and we hope that they can be taken up on the next level to even come up with little kits for assaying, for screening. For me, that's what I think would be really good. Yeah.
Thank you.